She thought her husband was betraying her in Oslo until doctors revealed her own autoimmune thyroid disease was distorting reality.
Today, we're stepping into a story that's kind of shrouded in what you might call a silver fog. It's a place where the chill of a Scandinavian winter is really only matched by the cold dread of mistrust. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you felt, deep down, that something was seriously wrong in your life, in your relationship? But what if the very illness that's running through your veins was actually designed to make you feel paranoid? How on earth would you know what's real? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to break down this incredible story that just totally blurs the line between those two things. And as we follow the clues, both the emotional ones and the biological ones, we're going to uncover a really crucial truth about the connection between our minds and our bodies. Okay, so let's dive right in. Our story kicks off in this quiet Oslo apartment, but trust me, the calm on the surface is hiding a storm that's just waiting to break. So we meet Hanna Trakura, and her life seems to be all about quiet precision. Everything is in its place. It's a really stark contrast to these little hints of her Maori heritage from back home in New Zealand. And you have to understand, this isn't just about a change of scenery. It's really a picture of isolation, of a life that's been very carefully built, so far away from everything she knows. Now the tension here, it doesn't build with some big bang. It's more like a series of whispers. And you've got to notice the details. That tiny tremor in her fingers, the way her reflection looks all warped in the kettle, the prescription bottle just sitting there. But right alongside those physical clues, you get this unreadable, lingering stare from her husband, Eric. So right from the get-go, two conflicts are being planted. One is happening inside her body, and the other is happening right there in her own home. So where does all this quiet tension go? Well, it definitely doesn't stay quiet for long. That vague, uneasy feeling, it very quickly finds some hard evidence to latch onto. And you know, it all just boils down to this one single devastating question. A question that once you ask it, you can never really take it back. It's like the match that just lights the whole fire. And this timeline here, wow. It just lays out the whole collapse perfectly. You see, it starts inside, with Hanna's hand tremor, and then it just spirals out, his weirdly distant texts, then finding a name, Lena, in an email. Then you get this silent, super tense stare down in the hallway, and it all leads to a confession. Not of a physical affair, but of an emotional dependency that, let's be honest, feels every bit as much like a betrayal. And this is where things get really fascinating, because you have to ask yourself, was Hanna's growing paranoia just a totally justified response to her husband pulling away, or was it a symptom of something else entirely? This is the moment the story pivots from this domestic drama into a really compelling medical mystery. Okay, so at the heart of all of this is something called autoimmune thyroiditis. Now, to put it simply, this means Hanna's own immune system is attacking this tiny gland in her neck. The problem is, that tiny gland is basically the master controller for her hormones, her energy, and, this is the critical part, her emotions. And this chart, wow, this just brilliantly shows the impossible situation Hanna's in. I mean, just look at this comparison. The symptoms of severe anxiety you'd get from a betrayal, that feeling of dread, not being able to concentrate, they are almost identical to the clinical symptoms of her thyroid condition, paranoia, major mood swings. Her body is literally physically producing the exact same feelings that her emotional trauma is creating. It's a perfect storm. And here's the real kicker. The reason this matters so much beyond just this story. This isn't some super rare, obscure disease. It's actually the #1 cause of an underactive thyroid in a ton of countries. And yet, its huge psychological effects, they are so often just dismissed or misdiagnosed as just a mental health issue. You know, one of the most powerful things about this story is that it doesn't just tell you Hanna is suffering, it uses the language of film itself to make us feel her disorientation. It is just a masterclass in showing, not telling. So first up, just look at the color. The entire world of the story is drained into this cold, almost clinical blue. And that's not just some random artistic choice. It's a visual translation of how Hanna is feeling, detached, isolated, and just cold. And then you've got the camera itself. It literally becomes a symptom of her illness. The filmmakers use these subtle distortions, these slight fisheye effects that make the walls of her own apartment feel like they're closing in. Her vision blurs, and that mimics the actual dizziness and brain fog that come with her condition. We feel her anxiety because the camera basically forces us to. And finally, you have to pay attention to the objects because they carry so much weight. That distorted reflection of her in the kettle,
That's not just a reflection, it represents her fragmented sense of self. And the silver fern pendant, which is a link back to her home in New Zealand, becomes this little anchor she's clinging to, a symbol of the stability that's just gone from her life.
Okay, so this is where all the different pieces of the puzzle just click into place. The real power of this story isn't just that the betrayal and the biology were happening at the same time. No, it's that they were actively feeding each other.
I mean, just look at this table. It maps out this totally destructive feedback loop. The emotional betrayal triggers a physical stress response in her body. That stress then makes her autoimmune condition physically worse, causing a flare-up. That flare-up then makes her paranoia even worse, which of course puts more strain on the relationship, creating even more stress. It is a perfect, vicious circle.
Let's just walk through it real quick. Step 1, the emotional trauma hits. Bam! Step 2, stress hormones like cortisol, they just flood her system. Step 3, all that chronic stress aggravates her already vulnerable thyroid. And then step 4, the physical flare-up makes the psychological stuff, the paranoia, the anxiety, so much more intense, which just starts the whole cycle over again. Her mind is making her body sick, and her body is making her mind even sicker.
So you might think the climax of this whole story would be some big, loud confrontation, right? But it's not. It's actually this moment of quiet, almost terrifying clarity. It's the realization that she couldn't start to heal by just fixing the relationship, or by just treating the illness. She had to finally acknowledge that the two battles, they were actually one and the same.
And really, that's what this story leaves us with. It's this final, super important question for all of us to think about. Hannah's story is just such a powerful reminder of how deeply connected our physical and emotional health truly are. It kind of forces us to ask ourselves, in our own lives, how often might a physical cry for help be disguised as something else entirely?
In this story, the symptoms shown fatigue, mood swings, anxiety, and emotional misinterpretation may be associated with autoimmune thyroid disorders, such as Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Research suggests that untreated thyroid hormone imbalance can significantly affect mental health and emotional regulation. According to the Mayo Clinic, hypothyroidism and autoimmune thyroid disease may contribute to depression, cognitive slowing, and emotional instability. Similarly, guidance from Health New Zealand emphasizes the importance of early testing, hormone level monitoring, and seeking professional medical consultation if persistent fatigue, mood changes, or unexplained anxiety occur. If you or someone close to you is experiencing these symptoms, avoid self-diagnosis and consult a certified healthcare professional. This video is created for awareness and educational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice.